Hello everyone and welcome back to Play for Fun. Without further ado, let's dive in Atheria and see what we've got so far. Take a look at this. Atheria has made some fantastic progress since episode 1. We've got a great little economy with a solid hourly income and profit, even though I've temporarily bumped up the budget for some services to 150% to avoid building new structures before we kick off episode 2. Despite that, we're still comfortably in the green, and by a wide margin. The city's population has surged past 65,000 and continues to grow steadily. As you can see, the unemployment statistics are in a good place. Citizen satisfaction and happiness are also looking good, except for this small dip due to taxes. Remember, I raised taxes to 11% to speed up growth in these early stages. I'm thinking of bringing it back down to 10% by the end of this episode since we'll be completely self-sufficient budget-wise and won't need to worry about it anymore. For the rest of the city's services and amenities like electricity and energy, as you can see, things are looking great. We're even exporting a ton of it. It's the same story with water and sewage. Everything's running smoothly there too. Healthcare services are more than sufficient for our current population. When it comes to waste management and garbage, we can say things are pretty suitable for now. But city's education system, despite the numerous elementary schools I've added, we're still facing a significant shortage. However, for other aspects of education, things are looking good. Fire stations and police stations have adequate coverage for the time being. And about public transportation, well, I have to say, you can clearly see how helpful these 5 bus lines have been. They've covered a huge portion of the population and have been completely sufficient so far. But definitely, as the population grows and the city expands, they'll need an upgrade. Alright then, time to roll up my sleeves and get started. Atheria, are you ready for some changes? Let's go! To get started, I'm going to reset the budget for all services to their default settings. I need to make sure all services are functioning optimally at these settings. Next, to get a better point of view and visualize what I want to achieve with this city, I'll continue extending the main highway and the surrounding streets along the riverbank. For this episode, I'm not planning to expand the city from this side. This step is mainly to get a clear idea of what I want to do here. Often, as things progress, I end up changing many of these plans, but overall, this approach really helps when working on cities like this one without a pre-made plan or map. Everything happens in the moment, and I decide on the design of each part on the spot. This method is quite helpful, at least for me. So, I'll move forward and expand this area along the riverbank, following the pattern of the main parts of the city. So far so good. But now I want to build a bridge to the other side of the river. This will help connect both sides of the city as it grows, and we'll definitely need more bridges in the future to keep everything well connected. To improve accessibility, I want to create an intersection right here to connect the highway to this part of the city. This way, in the future, citizens can easily travel between the two sides of the city and the highway. Let's get this done and see how it enhances the city's connectivity. I think things are progressing well so far. In the future, I plan to designate this part of the city for agricultural fields, and maybe even extend this to the other side of the river, which seems suitable for it too. I'll use this area and the railway tracks for transporting products. I think that'll be fantastic. For the rest of this episode, I'm planning to expand the city from this section and create a new neighborhood. It'll have a slightly different design but will still be in harmony with the city's overall design language. This new part of the city is set to shine in Atheria and draw everyone's attention, so I need to put a lot of thought into its design. To start, I'll create the initial lines and outline the area I'll be working on. This section will serve as the boundary between the upper and lower parts of the city. Once I complete this central part, I'll probably develop a new section below it, which will be almost a copy of the upper part. But for now, the main focus is on this central area. Alright guys, this is the design I've finally come up with for this central area. Of course, this is just the initial plan, and I'll be refining it over time. As I mentioned before, this central area serves as the boundary between the two main parts of the city. A bit later, after completing this central section, I plan to create a new area here that's almost a replica of the initial district, and this will likely be my final design for this part. Let me explain here why I created these half-finished and incomplete sidewalks. To complete the zoning of the interior sections, I had to close off these corners with these sidewalks so that the entire space in these areas could be set to zoning for internal residential zones. This is a simple method and a trick that I often use. After the buildings are completed, I remove them. For the main parts of this area, I've decided to use urban promenades with mixed housing. Trust me, the final result is going to be stunning. This setup combines residential buildings with commercial spaces on the lower levels, covering all the needs of these areas. As for these blue commercial zones, I'm still not entirely sure about them. We probably won't need them anymore. Regarding these various service buildings, I have to say they're not in their final positions yet. I just wanted to make sure everything here is sufficient for the new population. When I get around to designing and detailing this area, I'll find a better place for all of them. But for now, let's resume the simulation and see what happens. Alright, as you can see, the buildings have been constructed, and the city's population has reached 82,000. Next, I plan to complete the designs on both sides of this new section in the same style and keep progressing. I'll also place some of the buildings and services into the appropriate spots I've planned for them and advance some of the detailing work. Well, what do you guys think about the design? Personally, I think it turned out great. To be honest, in the video this process took a few minutes, but in reality, it took me over 7 days to finally reach this design. I tried 3 different designs for this central area. One of those designs was a large park instead of all these buildings, but I wasn't really satisfied with the final result, so I started over from scratch. What you're seeing now is my 4th attempt at designing this section. So guys, the reason this episode was uploaded late is because of this central part. I really want what I show you in these videos to be the best I can create at the time. So please don't be too upset with me for the delay in uploading the videos. Rest assured, I'm doing my best. Anyway, let's move on and get back to work. I need to complete this design and step by step finalize this new part. Relocating the service buildings and placing them in their proper locations is the first step. For this empty area, the best thing to do is to place the schools there. To do this, I'll create an access point and move the school buildings to this new spot. And now that we have enough space and we know we're facing a severe shortage of elementary schools, let's double them. By adding playgrounds and filling in the empty spaces, it'll all come together nicely. I'll gradually add these pedestrian walkways. Designing these small areas might not always seem essential, but believe me, all the joy of your final city comes from these details. In the end, you'll truly appreciate the work you've put into it. By focusing on these intricate touches, not only does the city become more visually appealing, but it also creates a richer experience for everyone exploring it. It's these little things that make your city stand out and feel alive. To connect these pedestrian walkways to the streets, I carefully ensure that this connection doesn't create a new pedestrian crossing with traffic lights. We already have too many of those that I need to delete one by one. Next, by adding a few parks and some parking lots, completing the sidewalks, and adding various surfaces, I bring this part's design one step closer to completion. Then I'll move on to the next section and continue doing the same. I'll proceed step by step like this. Stay with me. Alright, we can say that about 90% of the work on this part has been completed, and only the landscaping and adding more pedestrian walkways between residential buildings remain. But at this stage, let's check and see, with the new population and the addition of this new part to the city, what the city's statistics and figures look like. So, you can see that the citizens' health is in excellent condition, and by adding a few new cemeteries and some new crematoriums to the city, we have no issues in that regard. Also, the city's waste management system is currently satisfactory. Although later on, when expanding the industrial area, I have a plan for that as well. Regarding the city's education system, you can see that by adding new elementary schools, the shortage has been somewhat resolved, but it still needs attention. As for the public transportation system, upgrading it will be the last step for this episode after completing the residential areas and expanding the industrial zone. So next up, as I mentioned before, I'm going to build almost a mirror image of the older part of the city, right here on the opposite side. This will take me several hours, but you don't need to spend that much of your time. You'll see it in the form of a time lapse. If you want to see the complete building process, just check out the previous episode. I showed all the steps there in great detail, so there's no need to repeat it here. Let's get going, and come along with me. Alright guys, here's what I've achieved after a few hours of work. You can see that I've almost completely copied and mirrored the design of the first part of the city to create this new area. Also, I've added the essential buildings and services, along with a college and a university. Regarding this central area, you'll see that gradually, as other parts of the city are completed, it's standing out even more. I'm really satisfied with it, and I think all the time I spent on it was worth it. Alright, let's get back to the buildings I've constructed here. 4 clinics and a big hospital should be sufficient for this area. Regarding the education system, I've included everything necessary. I've also added 3 fire stations, and I forgot to build a police station. No worries, I'll place it right now. These 4 small police stations are entirely sufficient for this area. Regarding public transportation, I'll leave its upgrade for the end of this episode and won't make any changes for now. The parks are also more than enough, allowing the citizens to enjoy their green spaces. The postal system for this section has been fully implemented as well. Alright, everything here seems ready, but before zoning and adding new residents, I want to expand and upgrade the industrial area a bit. Our new and growing number of citizens definitely need jobs. So I have to think about expanding the industrial areas and adding more office zones to keep things running smoothly. For now, I just want to add some office and industrial spaces to this part of the city and upgrade our garbage collection and recycling system. Let's watch the time lapse together, and then I'll explain what I've done. Alright guys, as you've seen, this is the final design I've crafted for this episode to elevate our industrial area. I've strived to make it as efficient as possible, seamlessly blending it with the city's overall design, so it can shoulder a substantial portion of our city's economic load. What I've changed here is the waste collection and recycling system, which is now a combination of 3 large incineration plants that generate electricity from burning waste and feed it directly into the city. Alongside that, I've added 6 Japan recycling centers, which, despite their small size, are very efficient, and I really enjoy using them. This new system will work much more efficiently than before. And right here, I've placed this chemical plant, which boosts the overall efficiency of all industrial areas by 1%. I built it from the special buildings section. Once more factories from this section are unlocked, I'll be able to use them too. Regarding zoning, I've completed all of it. These areas have been entirely designated as industrial zones. As for this part, I should mention that I've assigned it to office zones. One reason for this is that it's very close to the river water being pumped for citizen use, and I didn't want to supply polluted water to the good people of Atheria. And right next to this empty space here, which we can use in the future, I have 2 geothermal power plants that have great potential and produce very low pollution. As you can see here, I've also completed the zoning for the areas I've recently built in the residential district. I have to say that the zoning in these parts is almost a copy of the first part of the city, and I didn't change it much. Now everything is okay, and it's time to sit back, watch the new buildings in Atheria being constructed, and enjoy a hot cup of coffee. Alright, we've almost successfully passed this stage. Atheria is steadily inching closer to reaching that 1 million population mark. Even though I've given it several hours, many buildings haven't been constructed yet, and as you can see, there are still plenty of empty spaces. But I plan to keep on working and allow these gaps to gradually fill with buildings as I spend time refining the details. What's really noticeable is the traffic issue, which is somewhat expected considering a large influx of new residents is pouring into the city, and there's still no public transportation system for these new parts. I'm confident this will be completely resolved. As for the city's industrial sector, as you can see, it's fully utilizing its capacity, and everything is running smoothly here. Moving forward, I want to focus a bit on green spaces, fine-tuning, drawing pedestrian walkways, and adding details and decorations, especially in the central area. Keep an eye on the city's population and budget. Everything is about to change. Well, this is what we have reached after several hours. The final population for this episode is approximately 215,000 people, which is fantastic. We've come a long way to get here. The city's income and economy are also in great shape with no major issues. Although some services need attention. But for now, I'm planning to enhance the public transportation system and beautify the green spaces in the new areas for the final tasks of this episode. If you watched the previous episode, you know our city's public transportation had 5 bus lines covering all parts of the city. But now, with the city's expansion, there are many areas these buses don't cover, and that's something we need to address. Originally, for this episode, I had a grand plan to add a tram and metro system. However, looking at the city map now, I see a key area, the heart of the city, is set to be built in the next episode. Adding the metro and tram now would mean I'd have to reevaluate the entire map in the next episode, which seems redundant. So, I'll leave this major upgrade for the next episode. For now, I'll expand the bus lines to ensure that all citizens of Atheria are satisfied. For now, adding 5 new bus lines along with extending the existing line to the industrial area should suffice. This should keep everyone satisfied until the next episode, when many new features will be added. What do you think about creating a railway station? Although it's highly likely that I'll completely change its location and design later, I want to establish a railway station in this spot for now. I'm not going to design anything special for it. I'll just provide simple access to it from this route. This location is the perfect spot to place the rail yard. I'll keep it simple for now and leave the more complex tasks for the next episode. To improve access to the city center, I'll add 2 small terminals, one next to the train station and one right here. This will ensure better access to various bus line stations. With a few tweaks to the default settings of these rails, I'll try to make them blend better with the city design. I also spent some more time completing the green spaces, filling empty areas with trees. This really has a big impact on the final look of the city. And finally, as you know, despite adding many elementary schools, we still face a shortage. So I've decided to temporarily place several elementary schools together here. These are completely temporary, and I don't like meeting needs in this way. But considering that this episode's upload is already 8 days delayed, I don't want to spend more time on it. I'll leave it to the next episode and, for now, address the citizens' needs this way. Alright guys, that's the end of episode 2 in our Road to 1 Million series with the city of Atheria. What do you think about continuing this series with other cities after we finish this one? I really hope my PC can handle it, because in this episode, the CPU usage hit 100%, and the game will get progressively slower from here on out. But I'll keep pushing forward as much as I can. If I manage to get the budget, I might even upgrade to a new CPU. I also want to apologize for the delay in uploading this episode. As I explained in the video, designing some parts can be really challenging. There are times when I feel no creativity at all, and I have to get through those moments. But guys, what's important to me is that I'm ultimately satisfied with what I upload, because if I'm not, I can't expect you to like it either. Thank you again for your support. Every like and comment, whether it's encouragement or critique, means the world to me and helps me get these episodes ready faster. So please, under this video, share anything you like, including your thoughts and ideas. I will eagerly respond to all of them. Stay tuned for the next episode, and until then, happy building!